Okay.
Okay, I'm calling the regular meeting of the Rosstown Council on Thursday, April 8th, 2021 to order. Linda, can you please take the roll?
Yes, Councilmember Breckus,
Here.
Councilmember Kircher,
Here.
and Councilmember Cool,
Here.
Councilmember Robbins,
Here.
and Mayor McMillan.
Here, thank you. Has the agenda been posted?
Yes, it has.
Turning to the meeting minutes, we have 3 sets of meeting minutes to approve. One is from the special meeting on Thursday, February 25th. One is from the regular meeting on Thursday, March 11th. And the last one is from the special meeting on Thursday, March 29, 2021. Linda, you didn't receive any changes to the meeting minutes, did you?
I believe Councilmember Kircher has a change to the March 11th minutes.
Go ahead, Bill.
I do, and I apologize for not seeing this error earlier, but I do have an issue with the meeting minutes for our March 11th regular town council meeting. On page 8, I'm proposing a change to the first sentence, which ends with the words, "and did not think the results were lopsided." That's a referral to the survey. What I said was actually the opposite of that. But rather than go through and repeat everything I did say at the council meeting, I'm proposing simply to remove those words, the words, "and did not think the results were lopsided."
That's the first sentence for?
Yes, first
Second-
sentence on page 8.
Second line. Yeah.
Okay, so we're removing which part?
The last part of the first sentence, the words, "and did not think the results were lopsided."
Okay,
So the sentence would end with the word survey and then continue on with "it was clear that."
okay, got it.
Any other corrections or changes? Okay, with that modification, could we please have a motion to, we can do all 3 sets at the same time? Could we have a motion to approve all 3 sets of meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second,
Great, thank you. Linda?
Let's take the vote. How do you vote, Councilmember Breckus
aye.
and Councilmember Kircher?
Aye.
Councilmember Cool,
Aye.
Councilmember Robbins,
Aye.
and Mayor McMillan.
Aye.
And I just want to note that Councilmember Kircher is recused from the March 29th minutes because he was not there. So I just will make a note in the record for that.
Great,
And motion passes unanimously.
thank you.
Okay, I'm going to step into the next room
Yeah,
to do the next part of this.
okay, good luck with that. Joe, are you around? Have the demands been met?
Yes, they have.
Okay, we are at number 5, swearing in and welcome to new employee Police Chief Raffaello Ralph Pata, and I'll let you guys get set up and start whenever everybody's ready.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. I am very happy to introduce our new police chief, Raffaello Pata, to the council and community this evening. With the retirement of Police Chief Eric Masterson, we conducted a very extensive and thorough recruitment process. Through this highly competitive process and interviews of a strong pool of candidates, we gained unanimous agreement that the top choice for police chief for the town of Ross was Raffaello Pata. He has had deep commitment to serve and interact with the community and a proven track record as a leader in collaborative and community policing. He has over 34 years of public safety experience and has served in many roles managerial, supervisory, and leadership roles. Raffaello was born in San Rafael. At the age of 17, he joined the San Rafael Fire Department as a dispatcher, and shortly thereafter went to work for the San Rafael Police Department first as a civilian role and then as an officer at the age of 20. He has served in progressively, increasingly responsible roles throughout his 34-year career in the San Rafael Police Department. And when he was a lieutenant, among other things, he created and managed the first San Rafael homeless outreach team, was responsible for co-teaching the emergency incident management system to the officers and police leadership, served as a commander of the crisis negotiation team, and served as lieutenant in charge of the investigation unit. In addition, he is an FBI trained forensic artist. So if you see him drawing you while he is talking to you, it'll be a very good drawing. He also has received 3 life-saving awards. Since December 2018, he was working in the Marin County District Attorney's Office as an investigator. And he is here with a number of members of his family, including his wife, his son, his father, who was a police officer, and his brother, and other friends and family, and mother-in-law and father-in-law, and a few others. So with that, we are very excited to have Raffaello join us as our new police chief, and I will turn it over to Linda Lopez to swear you in.
Okay, repeat after me, raise your right hand. I, Raffaello Pata,
I, Raffaello Pata,
do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I will take this obligation freely
that I will take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
Welcome to Ross.
Thank you.
Congratulations and welcome.
Do you want to
Yeah, I'm Mayor McMillan. Jim, thank you so much for this opportunity. I love this town. I've been looking forward to this for a long time, and I'm finally here. And, I'm excited, and I'd like to thank my friends, my Chief Jim Wyden from the Coronado Fire Department for coming up, and members of my department, and my good friends, my wife, my father. Thank you.
Yeah.
we have a pin, so his wife is going to come up and badge.
Congratulations.
Mayor or council members, if you have any comments.
Yes, welcome and congratulations. We're delighted that you're here.
Yeah, we can't wait to meet you in person without a mask.
Can't wait.
Hopefully that will be very soon.
Welcome, Chief. I'm looking forward to meeting you in person.
The same, Chief. Welcome. Congratulations.
Yes, thanks for joining our community. We appreciate it.
All right.
Joe is moving back to his office, so we'll take a few seconds, and then we can move on to recognizing our retiring Police Chief Masterson.
Okay, I am back, but
Wow.
I want to get Chief Masterson on. There we go. Eric,
Hey, boss.
great to see you, Chief. I want to recognize our incredible retired police chief, Eric Masterson, for his distinguished career in law enforcement that spanned over 4 decades, with the last 10 being as the police chief of the Ross Police Department. During his tenure, Chief Masterson led the police department with impeccable character and integrity, the highest standards of excellence, and a deep commitment to providing effective community policing. He greatly valued the community, his employees, and cohesive working relationships, and was committed to ensuring Ross remains one of the safest places in the country. He will long be remembered for being approachable, his generous spirit, calm demeanor, and strong desire to engage and interact with the community. Eric, thank you for 10 years of outstanding services to the Ross community and all the employees, and we will miss you. You've been fantastic. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mayor, Council, boss. It's been a great run. Thank you all for allowing me to be the chief of police for the town of Ross. It was an amazing journey. I'm so grateful and so thankful to have a job I truly love. And what a wonderful community. I will miss everyone so much. And the staff is incredible. The town staff, wonderful people, hardworking people, great at doing their jobs, really all about serving the community. A great staff in the police department. They're the ones that make me look good. They're the ones that do the hard work, the heavy lifting. And you're in great hands now with Ralph. I will miss everybody very much, and I'm so thankful for the opportunity to have served Ross. So, and this is a gift from a Ross resident, and he said I needed work on retiring, so he gave me a shirt in order to begin the work of actually being retired. So,
Awesome.
so Peter, if you're watching, thank you.
Eric, I just want to say thank you so much for everything that you have done. I am remembering your remarks at the Black Lives Matter event on the stage last June, and you were so sincere and so moving. And I think the community really appreciated hearing your wisdom and receiving your perspective based on that. And I also wanted to thank you. You know, I had to call you on Thanksgiving morning because of a weird situation. And you answered the phone on the very first ring, and you were just grace under pressure and basically said, "What can I do for you?" So I really, really appreciated that, being so available and so kind with me. So thank you. We will truly miss you, and we wish you all the best in your next chapter. Lots of little golden retrievers.
Fred's waiting for me inside.
Anyone else want to say anything?
Well, I certainly reiterate your comments, Julie. Eric, it's been great having you as our chief. It's, your role is is helped enormously when we were trying to pass the parcel tax. The organization that you've headed is so well respected that parcel tax for public safety passed with flying colors. And, you get a lot of the credit. You deserve a lot of the credit for that. So thank you so much for all of the years you've given us. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd love to chime in and just say, Eric, it's been such a pleasure to get to know you. It's been so great to see your face on the corner of the school, really present in our community and for the children and the families. And, nobody has anything but fabulous things to say about you. And I still remember when you alerted me to the fact that my son was prank phone calling people around town and said, yeah, no, she'd want to know this. And so it's just like the best of community policing that you could do. And really, I agree also with what Elizabeth said, that, it's that personal touch that makes everybody feel like Ross is Ross. And you've been a huge part of that. So thank you so much. I really have enjoyed getting to know you better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy your retirement.
I promise.
Eric, I'll miss seeing you at the corner of Lagunitas and Allen in the morning as the kids come to school. I think that was something very special for the community that you, as the chief, were there. I hope that you'll come down and visit us once in a while for the 4th of July or the town dinner, various events like that. And now you can have a drink at those events.
Now we're talking. Thank you.
Let me just weigh in as well. I'm the newest council member, but I've lived in Ross for 7 years. Been incredibly impressed, Eric, by you and the Ross department in terms of its professionalism and the responsiveness I think you make and have made in your department makes everybody feel well cared for and safe, and know that if we have a problem, there is help. And I'm on El Camino Bueno, so there's help right down the street, but Ross is a small town. So I think it really helps with our feeling of being a close community. And as a resident, I will say we've had a couple of issues on our street, and the most recent one was a safety related issue. And you were here personally. I didn't call you. Maybe somebody on the street did, or maybe you just heard about it, but you came out to check on it. And the residents knew that. They knew our chief was here looking out for us. So thank you so much for everything you've done, and all best wishes.
You're welcome. Thank you. And I know boss did a great job of selecting a new person. So I feel that the town is in great hands with Ralph.
Chief, you've left big shoes to fill, but you've left this place in a good place, and I'm very appreciative. You've been a mentor for more than 30 years of my life, so I'm grateful. Thank you very much, and I look forward to this adventure. And I look forward to calling you. I have you on speed dial. So
there'll be an invoice. Anytime. And I hope to see you again. I will be stopping by every once in a while because there's a soft place in my heart for Ross. So I'll be around from time to time. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Eric. Good luck.
Thank you so much.
All right. Now is the open time for public expression. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker on items not on our agenda tonight. Linda, is there any member of the public who wishes to speak?
I'm not seeing any raised hands at this time. If anyone wants to speak, now is the time. Let's see. Here we go. Here's one.
Thank you.
So we have Alan Piambo.
Yeah, this is Al Piambo, City Manager, Mill Valley. I formerly served with now Chief Pata and former Chief Eric Masterson for quite a long time. You guys are laying out aces here. You picked two good ones. Eric had an outstanding record in San Rafael and carried that forward in Ross. And I'm very confident Joe picked a winner here too with Ralph. He's dedicated his life to public service, and he will be front and center for your community. So congratulations to both these gentlemen and you as a town council for selecting Ralph.
Thank you so much for calling in and making those comments. That's wonderful. Linda, anybody else?
No, I don't see anyone else.
Okay. Moving now to the mayor's report. My last mayor's report. This past year has been challenging on so many levels. I want to reflect on where we were when I began serving as mayor a year ago. A few weeks into a novel shelter-in-place order with no vaccine in sight. A couple months before the horrific George Floyd murder, and about half a year before record wildfires, smoke, heat, and power outages, each unprecedented. The pandemic, we moved all meetings to Zoom, and the town staff adjusted operating processes to deliver services following COVID-19 safety protocols. Amazingly, town business continued uninterrupted along with our council meetings with record resident attendance. We began to address other major issues, including our deteriorating town facilities and the Corte Madera Creek Flood Risk Reduction Project. Many residents are now vaccinated. Social justice. In June, we participated in the Black Lives Matter event on the Common, recommitting to equity. Councilmember Breckus and I participated in county meetings about renaming Sir Francis Drake Boulevard, with our council voting in January against it 4-1, followed by most other affected jurisdictions. Wildfire and climate change. Voters overwhelmingly approved the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority, and I joined its board. During record-setting wildfires and smoke, MWPA-funded inspectors showed residents how to harden their homes and create defensible space. Last summer, in the face of more power outages, council adopted a generator policy. We reviewed the town's climate action plan and added promote environmental stewardship to our town goals. Today, our lives are returning to a new normal. We are emerging stronger and more resilient for future challenges, with greater appreciation of the things we once took for granted. I am proud of how much we've overcome and accomplished. I thank my fellow council members for your service to our town and for your support, especially Mayor Pro Tem Robbins, and the town staff, especially Town Clerk Linda Lopez and Town Manager Joe Chin. Finally, heartfelt thanks to Police Chief Masterson for his 10 years of outstanding service, and a warm welcome to Chief Pata. Next, council committee and liaison reports. Any council members? Okay. Town manager report.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. 2 items. On April 15th at 6 p.m., there will be a public workshop to discuss the impacts to Frederick Ellen Park from the Corte Madera Creek Flood Risk Project. And the second item, we will have the return of Ross Downtown Outdoor Dining, returning on Friday, April 30th and Saturday, May 1st, when we'll close off part of Redwood Drive, put out some tables, and people could dine at the restaurants or on Redwood Street or on the Common. And we'll please support your local restaurants and businesses. Thanks.
Thanks, Joe. I'm not sure if RPOA is doing a report tonight or not. They did not have a meeting on Monday, so Linda, do you see anyone from RPOA?
You know, Mayor, they have several new members. I'm not terribly familiar with all of the people on the RPOA now.
All right, I'm going to take a look.
Yeah.
No one has their hand raised, and I don't, unless it was somebody's just first name.
Yeah, I don't see anybody.
Okay.
Okay. All right, consent agenda. There's 3 items on the consent agenda. Does anyone from the public wish to remove any matter from the consent agenda? Linda, do you see anybody?
No raised hands.
Okay, does any council member wish to remove any item from the consent agenda? All right, let's have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second,
All right, let's take the vote. How do you vote, Councilmember Breckus
Aye.
and Councilmember Kircher?
aye.
Councilmember Cool,
Aye.
Councilmember Robbins,
Aye.
and Mayor McMillan.
Aye,
The consent agenda passes unanimously.
thank you. Item number 12, Town Council discussion and direction regarding a modification to the temporary prohibition of the public and dogs upon the Ross Common to facilitate in-person school and social distancing for Ross School students, faculty, and staff, and Ross recreation programs. Joe. You're muted, Joe.
And Linda, if you could also bring in Dr. McDowell into this item too. At the August 13, 2020 council meeting, the town council adopted resolution number 2177, which temporarily restricted public use of the northern portion of the common, referred to as the Grove area, and other areas on the southwest side of the common from 7:30 to 3:30 p.m. on Ross school days. And it prohibited dogs upon the Ross Common, whether on leash or unleashed, at any time in order to facilitate social distancing. The resolution was passed to facilitate social distancing for Ross School and Ross recreation activities on the Common. The resolution shall expire when either repealed by the town council or upon a declared termination of the state of emergency regarding COVID by the town council. At the March 11, 2021 council meeting, 2 council members requested that the temporary prohibition be brought to this council meeting for an update and council discussion on this topic. Ross School requested greater usage of the Ross Common in the summer of 2020 to facilitate social distancing for students and school staff under shelter-in-place and health orders that have occurred with the COVID-19 pandemic. The temporary prohibition from resolution number 2177 has allowed the school to utilize the common for various activities throughout the school year. Since mid-March, the school has expanded their scheduling and programming to include recess and electives, with the Grove area being used for recess and snack 5 days a week. Starting on this coming Monday, April 12th, students will begin attending school all day, and they plan to utilize the Grove area of the Common for recess and lunch 5 days a week. Attached to the staff report are 2 recent letters from Ross School Superintendent Dr. Michael McDowell. The school is requesting the Grove area remain dog-free for the school through the end of the school year on June 10th. Ross Recreation has additionally been able to utilize the Grove area to facilitate social distancing for the 2020-2021 school year for after-school programs. And the programs run through 4:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. This summer, the Recreation Department will be continuing to implement all required COVID safety guidelines. And this includes keeping camps in pods, and when I mean pods, small groups. And they have to be isolated and socially distanced from all other pods. In order to do this effectively, Ross Recreation will be using the Grove for at least one of the pods, in addition to the playing field area pods. The Grove area also serves as a shady area on the hot summer days for the kids to take a rest, have a snack, cool down. Keeping the area sanitary is essential. Another thing going on this summer is that the school playground is supposed to be closed for several weeks this summer while the playground equipment is being replaced. Thus, the playground area, in part or all of the blacktop, will be off limits to Ross Recreation programs during the construction. All the camps this summer will run from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. and would benefit greatly by keeping the temporary prohibition in place through the summer programs, which end on August 6th. I'm going to hand it over now to Ross School Superintendent Michael McDowell, who will discuss the school's use of the common over the next 2 months.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I can't access my video because it says the host has to undo it. But if you can hear me, I'll go ahead and begin. So dear Town of Ross Council members, good evening and here we go. Can you see me?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, everybody. Dear Town of Ross Council members, good evening and thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. Before we begin, welcome Chief Pata. I look forward to meeting you and serving with you. Chief Masterson, the Ross school community will miss you. I didn't know this was part of the agenda. I should have looked at it. It's our spring break. So, but I will miss our morning conversations if you're still here, and your partnership. You are omnipresent and impactful in this community and in our school. So I hope you're still on. I love the t-shirt. Council members, I can't begin to express how thankful the Board of Trustees, staff, parents, and students are for your support of our request to use the Grove back in August and through this year. You've enabled our school to provide a safe and sanitary space in the Grove for students to walk to and from school, participate in recess, partake in electives, and now for us to be able to launch a full in-person day where we will have the longest in-person day of all of Marin County, with 6 hours and 5 minutes for our kindergarten through 5th grade and 6 hours and 10 minutes for our middle school, where we're launching a whole new lunch program and being able to have a recess program that goes from our courtyard all the way into the common and into the Grove area, which I did disclose in those memos. Your support has enabled the school to provide viable options to conduct electives. Since February, we've been out there in terms of our recesses and electives. We did have some of the work going on in the fall, but not as much as we see now in terms of being able to have more kids on campus and to be able to engage in our electives, our recess, and now our lunch program. Starting next Monday, as Mr. Chen had talked about, our students will begin attending school all day, and we'll need the area of the Grove for morning recess and recess after lunch. The Grove area is key to our plan for full in-person instruction, and as it provides our students a shaded area during recess and after lunch to play with one another. We're requesting that the Grove area continue to be dog-free for the duration of the spring semester, and on June 10th, we'll tender our request for the Grove area. As Mr. Chen had talked about, we will be looking at replacing some of the play structures, both in the kinder area as well as in the 1st through 8th grade area, and we will be slurrying and sealing our playground area after we put in the shade structure. So most of our blacktop area will be off limits for the majority of the summer as we replace much of our equipment, and so that'll be a key part for us. As we look to the 21-22 school year, we're awaiting news from the CDC and state and local guidance on the requirements for classroom mixing. The key for us is that we have to have a significant amount of space between various types of classrooms in case there was a case of COVID, that we wouldn't have to close down the school, but we can engage in contact tracing. In addition, we're eager to learn about childhood vaccinations. That news will certainly influence our calculus and our recommendations to the town council. So that's a bit of an update, and I'm happy to answer any questions. And again, I just thank you so much for your support, and I appreciate your patience and understanding as our school community has navigated this once in a lifetime global pandemic.
I have a question.
Yes, Elizabeth.
I'm at work and not in Ross most of my days, but I do come and go at times, and I still have a child at the school, and I really have seen the school utilize that space one time. And it was like a group of, it was right after we had a meeting where we talked about this, and then all of a sudden there was a classroom circle in chairs that were set up there. And there were numerous other spaces within the commons that they could have been set up. They could have been set up. It was the only group out there. So they could have been set up, under a new area that is shaded with the redwood trees, or anywhere, lots of places else. So I guess I'm wondering what, for the residents who I've heard from, and I'm hearing from them a lot, Michael, just so you know, what do you, what's the answer to that? I mean, nope. I'm hearing people who are in Ross a lot walking their dogs saying, hey, we're not seeing this use. And if the council were to agree that, fine, during the school days, it would be off limits, but at 5 o'clock, it would be an extra janitorial use if you wanted to go out and pick up, after dogs. But what is the obstacle to that? I mean, kids have been coming and going to Ross School in the mornings, for example, with dogs forever, most of whom come with the parents that are dropping kids off. So I just was in trying to think through how we're going to decide this. I'm wondering, what is your response to that?
Well, let me start at the end of your inquiry, Elizabeth, and then I'll go to the beginning of it. So we have had students for years that have come and gone across the common when there were dogs there. And usually the letters in regards to the dogs being on the common didn't go to the town council, they went to me. And I'm not requesting that change during normal times. I'm asking just in this particular pandemic. In terms of why we needed that particular area is because of spacing, and because we were planning, we've had 6 different schedules since the beginning of August. We had a distance learning schedule. We had a hybrid schedule. We had an AM and a PM. We had an AM that was a minimum day. Then we moved, and that was only for kindergarten through 2nd grade, because we had a spacing issue for our 3rd through 5th grade, because we couldn't get 6 feet around each particular student for 3rd through 5th grade, but we could in our K2 spaces, and then we couldn't do that with our 6th through 8th. So until we could renegotiate that with our union to have a new MOU that would allow us to create that different type of schedule for 3rd through 5th grade, and that changed in March. And now we're able to move to full in person, which will launch on Monday for our 6th through 8th grade, and then April 19th for our K through 5th. So with these various types of schedule changes, we have had students out. It's just that those students are out there at different times. It doesn't look like a normal day. So did we see as much as we would have liked to in the fall? No. I would have liked to see more of that in the fall. We actually decided to maximize more of our courtyard area than we did in the Grove area. We are seeing now that more of our kids are doing that. So if you go out in the last month and you take a look at what we're doing in the Ross Common, it's being utilized extensively. We have our students out there in recess. We have our elective teachers that are out there. And starting in the next 2 weeks, we're going to have approximately 16 adults, so 16 parents that will be volunteering each day to help us with recess and lunch supervision. They will be using that Grove area. It's specifically designated for parents to be able to take those students out. So we'll see more utilization, but we certainly did not utilize it as much as I would have liked to in the fall. But in this spring semester, I would say mid-January, early February, we did see an extensive use of it.
And just following up on that, so what about the pandemic changes people bringing their dogs in the morning, and what is a problem for having dogs there in the evening? I mean, if we were to open up the commons at 5 o'clock for residents, or 4:30 for residents to bring their dogs to there, why is that an obstacle for the school?
I think it's an obstacle for the school because of pee and poop, and that I have to make sure that there's a sanitary space for kids to play, roll around, jump, dive. And I also need to make sure that there aren't adults. I mean, we are using a public space for our recess. I need to make sure that there aren't adults that are close to students, and I need to make sure that there aren't dogs that would be close to students. And in the normal year, we don't even use the Grove area. We keep all of the students on the common. And so the adults and the dogs are on the Grove and we're on the common, but we need to use that area, which means there may be an interaction with a dog. And if a dog does bite a student, that's a liability on the district. And I also don't want that to happen just by its very nature. I need to make sure that if there's an adult that's close to students, that adult is vaccinated. I need to make sure that students don't get COVID. And so for me, that's the idea of why we want to make sure that that doesn't happen. And then there's just the normal, I mean, you know, I guess if there's a way where we're going to clean up all the pee and poop every day before the kids come the next day, then that's something we could certainly look at, but I need to make sure it's a sanitary space.
And that was something
Sorry.
that was something I had a question about, Michael. I mean, we had started last summer with that idea that the students would have the common during the day, but that dogs could be walked in the evening. And I think it was pretty quickly just, determined that it's just not sanitary. I mean, even if you clean up the obvious large, messes from a dog, there's dog residue, and it's unusual to have a dog park double as a picnic ground or a classroom. I don't know, I think there's a dog park in the country that's got a dual use like that. So I mean, that is something that I think people will be asking about. Can it be shared? But unless something's changed, my understanding is that last summer, it was pretty, well decided that it's just not sanitary. It's just not clean, and there's no way you can clean it up. I mean, even with the town's, events, I think the town waits about a week of having a closure before there's an event with people on the lawn. So so I guess the question is, has that changed, or is that still the prevailing view that it just can't be a shared space because of hygiene?
Well, that's my view. I don't see how it can happen, and I can't think of a children's recess area for a public school district that also shares with animals, that I can't ensure that that's a safe and sanitary space for kids to play. And again, I wouldn't bring this up to the council if this wasn't in a pandemic. We would just use the one area of the common where typically we don't have animals on that area.
Does anybody else have any other questions for Superintendent McDowell? Okay, Joe, do you want to have Gretchen go ahead and talk about the Ross Rec issues, and then we can open it up for public comment, and then we'll bring it back to the council for discussion?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Gretchen Kastetz, the recreation manager, for anyone that doesn't know. So our, reasons for wanting to have the temporary ban extended through summer are mirror exactly what Superintendent McDowell was speaking of, and it comes down to hygiene and keeping the area sanitary, because in past years before COVID times, we had classrooms as base camps for some of our well, they weren't pods then, but some of our camps where they would have a place to go, drink water, have a snack. But our goal is to keep these kids outside as much as humanly possible. And that Grove area is the shady area out there where we can get these, pods spaced out enough, have lunch, have snack, have water. So they're going to be eating, they're going to be drinking. And like Dr. McDowell said, when they're playing sports, they're rolling around, they're all over the place because, they're kids, and that's what they're supposed to do, and they're supposed to have fun. So for us through the summer, like Joe said, we will be having camp Monday through Friday from 9 to 1. So probably set up 8:30 to 1:30, you can assume. And then we're going to have between 3 to 5 pods of 14 to 20 kids, all of those days there. So in order to do that in a safe way, we really need to be able to utilize as much of both the field and the Grove space as possible to keep those cohorts isolated from one another. So that is why we are requesting that the temporary ban be extended through the summer. And I'm happy to answer questions, and I greatly appreciate you guys taking the time to consider this. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Gretchen. Anybody have questions for Gretchen before we open it up to the public?
Well, I have one question. Do you expect to have even more participants in Ross Rec this summer, given that children aren't vaccinated yet, so they're probably
Right.
not going to be traveling with their families to
Right.
some outside, vacation. And I wonder
Yeah,
if we're
we,
expecting even more of an enrollment just because the children have no place to go this summer since they're not vaccinated.
it's true. So we have opened all of our camp registration. We opened it at the beginning of March, and almost all of our programs are full at this point. We have wait lists for some of them, and we are kind of waiting on the state to determine if we can make our pods. When you're in the purple tier, the pod size is 14 or less. They've now defined it when you're out of the purple tier to be a stable cohort. They're not putting a number on it, but we also want to be conscious and smart about these groups and not have some, huge crazy amount of kids. So we're keeping it reasonable. I think 20 or less is what I've discussed with the instructors, what people feel comfortable with. But there's going to be a lot of kids out there, and that's where we're at. We don't have, we're not using the classrooms, and we might have one art camp in a classroom, but otherwise all of our sports camps, they're going to be out there every day of the week. And because they're sports camps, they're going to be playing games like soccer and flag football and tag. So they really each need a generous amount of space in order to do that with each other and still stay isolated from the other cohorts. And then the main thing with the Grove is that's the area we want to have the kids to be able to come chill out, take a break, have water, take their masks off if they need to. But in order to do that, again, it's spacing, like Dr. McDowell had said also. That kind of is the key to, if something happens in one group, if someone gets, COVID, let's hope not, in one group, by being able to do that, it allows us to keep all those other pods running and just close down the one pod or just do the contact tracing for the one pod if we're able to keep those groups isolated from one another. So that's kind of, that's the most important thing for how we have to plan for the summer. And the Grove is a huge part of that, and keeping these kids safe and having a place for them to have a minute to not be in the hot sun, especially if it gets super hot one day. So that's kind of where I'm coming from.
Question, can you tell me at any given time, how many kids will you have at the school?
For summer camp, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it would be, trying to think, if we have 4 pods, I mean, it could be between, I would say 65 to 80, depending on the day. Because there's certain weeks where we don't have every single camp running. On the weeks that we do have every single camp running, it would be up, towards that number of 80 if we stayed with the pod size that I'm thinking.
And I'm just wondering, Gretchen, if the playground reconstruction is an area that you would have normally utilized, but because that's going on, that's one less area that you can rely on.
Sorry, you froze there for a second. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, so that area over by the playground is one of the other shaded areas with tables that we would usually utilize for kids being able to go have lunch, things like that. And with it being out of service for us during that time, not all of summer, but for multiple weeks of summer, it does add to our need to have a safe place for the kids to be able to go and have lunch in a shaded area.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, Linda, I am assuming there's probably people from the public who would like to make a comment.
If there are, they have not raised their hand. Now is the time to raise your hand if you want to comment. Here we go. Craig McCarty. Go ahead, Craig. You have 3 minutes.
Have to unmute, Craig.
Yep.
Can we have a timer too going on?
Okay. I guess in regards to the use in the summer, And elsewhere, I mean, Ross Rec, it seems like in their planning, is totally ignoring 6 Redwood, which is one of the shadiest areas on the Grove and totally unused. And we spent a fortune and it's not being used. Why aren't you doing that?
Would you like me to respond?
Yes.
No.
No, Gretchen. You could let him make his comments and we'll let the public make all their comments and then we'll bring it back and then you can respond.
Okay. The other thing, I mean, I wrote an email in regards to the huge increase in dog population in this community and through the whole county. And then in particularly in this community, if you go talk to any of the dog owners, they'll all tell you they know one or more friends or neighbors that have adopted dogs. So we've gone from one of the most dog-friendly towns in the county to we've doubled down on the number of dogs. And these dogs are going to be with us for 8 to 14 years, maybe even longer, and they need a place to socialize. And that's one point. The second point, or the third point is the former mayors Hunter, Small, and Russell all have told me over the years that the school and Ross Rec wanted to take the dog park away from its residents. We're the people that pay your salaries, that support you. We want the dog park back. We want the reestablishment of this historic separation between the school and the commons. The commons is for everyone. About 50% of the population of Ross are of the age group that have no association with the school. We want the park back. I just don't want the theft to occur during this council. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig.
Is there anyone else? Nope, there's no raised hands, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Linda. So let's bring it back for discussion. Gretchen, maybe you could address the 6 Redwood issue, and then I have a proposal about how we should discuss this.
Okay, so for 6 Redwood, that is an area that we could also use. We don't, I mean, for snacks and things like that. And I actually see a lot of people using that area for during this time. Maybe I'm out there at different times than you are, but I still think with the number of kids that we have coming this summer, that in order to safely space, even if we were to use that area for 1 pod, we would still have, you know, at least 3 pods over in the Grove. So, you know, it's looking at either 3 pods or 4 pods in the Grove, but there's still, you know, say 15 to 20 kids each in each of those groups. So you still need to be able to space out quite a bit. But I do appreciate the suggestion about utilizing the 6 Redwood space as well. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Gretchen. So I would like to first discuss the temporary ban on the dog park through the end of the school year, June 10th. And then I'd like to have us come to a resolution about that. And then I'd like to move on and discuss the Ross Rec issue separately, if that's all right with everyone. Okay. How do people feel about extending the temporary ban through June 10th?
Well, I'll weigh in. I don't think that we have any choice. I mean, COVID has not gone away and the school needs the space, and there are hundreds and hundreds of students at the school. And I feel that we need to prioritize the students at this time.
Beach, I saw your hand up.
Yes, and I want to discuss a slightly different issue that bears on the issue of what do we do about the school for this summer. First of all, let me say on that score that I think as we decide this issue, we have a question of children's education versus dogs. And I'm sorry, but I am of the opinion that we have there's no question in my mind that we have got to give priority to the educational needs of the children. Now, why I said I want to discuss it in a little bit different terms is this. I was one of the 2 council people who asked that this item be on the agenda this month. The reason I did it was because I think the way we have got it set up is awkward in the sense that as it is now, we can't make any changes to the use or non-use of the Grove area except by the town council. And I think that's awkward. I think we ought to change our system so that our staff, Joe, essentially with the advisement of other members of the staff, can make that change, either to take us to open it up to dogs or to close it to dogs as situations change. In other words, I make it more flexible so that in fact there will be more dog use without interfering with the kids' use. It's just very awkward to have to bring it to the council and have us decide whether, like this week, maybe if Joe had control of it, perhaps he would have concluded that while the school is not in session, it was perfectly all right to have dogs on there. It wasn't something the council, it just doesn't work for the council to try and make these short-term changes that might improve the situation for everyone.
Thoughts about that proposal, Elizabeth?
Well, I think that, if staff's going to have any kind of decision, then they need to take direction from the council, and this is a public space. And I think that, one of the first things I heard about when I was running for council is, remember, the school doesn't own the commons and the town does, and that difference. And it is an important difference because it's true. We've got a big school population, but we have a big population that isn't there and should enjoy the recreational use of our town commons. So I, as someone who has had a dog off and on in this town for years, you all can hear mine barking right now, and kids at the school. First off, I've never stepped in dog poop on that area, all of my years of going to the school with the dog or not. My kids did recess. I mean, I don't know if Michael's changed things, but my kids used to go out and play during recess and lunch in that area and play, football, and no problems whatsoever. So I just don't see, I think this is just a manufactured issue about sanitation and stuff, because I just don't think it's historically been a problem. And I would like to see the commons opened up at 4:30 or 5, whatever the appropriate time is for residents. And yeah, maybe it's going to be an added expense. Maybe the school needs to hire someone to go out there, and if that's their comfort level, clean up. But guess what? It's really cheap land for the school, and it's an expense that they should bear. And if Ross Rec needs to do the same, then that's what they should do. The one time I saw that area under use, it was with a bunch of chairs. And so even if the rec school wanted to say, yeah, bring your, soccer chair to sit down, or bring a blanket or whatever, I just think this is really creating a big controversy around sanitation that is a little, I don't see the kids really having that big of an issue. I don't think it's a big problem. And I think we should return this to residents in fairness to them. And the fact that, it is a place for socializing. For those of you who have never gone there at 5 o'clock and seen all these people gathered there, that's needed during COVID just as much as kids. And so I think pitting this as children versus dogs is silly. And I think they can coexist in some reasonable manner. And I think that everybody should be flexible enough to allow that.
Bill, do you want to make a comment or should I go ahead?
Yeah, no, I think we're basically about 2 months away from the end of the school year. And as of now, I would be inclined to continue to defer to the judgment of Dr. McDowell and the school, knowing that the school year will end on I think it's June 10th. By that time, and I don't mean to spill over into the discussion of Ross Rec, but by then, the state orders may have changed. Children might be vaccinated. I mean, things are happening fairly quickly. So I don't know that a change right now, when we only have 2 months left, is really indicated. The longer this goes on, though, the higher I think the bar is. So I would be inclined, as I say, to continue to defer to the district under our existing resolution, or whatever it was, I think was until the end of the COVID emergency or repeal by the Crosstown Council. If the emergency order is somehow rescinded in the meantime, then this expires by its own terms, as I understand it. But right now, I'm not inclined to favor a change right now. I did listen carefully to what Elizabeth Breckus had to say. My wife and I have owned dogs. All of our children have multiple pets, and actually one has 2 dogs. So I am sympathetic to that. I do love dogs. They're great. They are part of the social life of the town. Kids love them too. But it is an extraordinary situation. And for that reason, I'm going to basically continue to support the separation, with the caveat that I do think this does need to end sometime in the foreseeable future.
And that's my view as well. I think, we should keep this until June 10th. I think we tried really hard to come up with a compromise last summer and allow the dogs use of the Grove area after hours and before the kids got to school. And that just doesn't work in terms of the sanitation issue. And yes, it is public property, but we are neighbors and we coexist and we have an agreement, an MOU. And the reason why one of the primary reasons our town is so strong and our property values are so high is because of the school. And so we need to work together in really, truly extraordinary times and support the school through June 10th. So it sounds to me like we have, how do people feel about turning this over to the staff or keeping it at the council level?
Well, wasn't that a resolution? Wouldn't we have to have a whole new resolution that changes how it's decided? So I don't know that we can decide that tonight. I mean, we don't have a resolution that we'd be approving. Is that correct?
Each.
Yeah, there we go. I think a fairly simple change in the resolution would do it, but I want to point out that we are not agendized to make any change. This item is agendized to give guidance to our staff as to what we want them to do. So I don't think we can make any change tonight, but we can give guidance about whether we want some change made.
Okay. Thank you, Beach. I think you're right on that. It sounds like there's 4 of us who are of the view that the school should continue to use the Grove area through June 10th. Does that sound right? Okay. Let's move to the Ross Rec summer issue. And let's have a discussion and give some guidance about how we feel about Ross Rec utilizing the Grove area.
So to me, that's almost the same as the school in that it's almost the same population. It's many, many children in Ross. And this is an extraordinarily unusual, unprecedented time with COVID. Children won't be vaccinated yet. The studies haven't even been completed to show that the vaccine works and is safe in children. So we've got a whole summer ahead of us with a whole town full of children and a wonderful recreation department that can actually take care of most of these children if we give them the space. And it is, again, this is, COVID will go away. The vaccines are being, rolled out, but not yet for children. So I think we really need to help Ross Rec through the summer because without having that clean space, they can't run the programs. And these are programs for the children in town who are largely stuck in town because without vaccines for children, they're not going to be traveling.
Elizabeth Breckus.
Yeah, I support opening up the dog park in the evening hours.
Does anybody else support that for right now?
During the summer,
Mhm.
I support simply deferring this part of the question until we get closer to summer, when we know what the situation is. I'm sympathetic to the recreation department and what Gretchen has said. I do think it's important for children to be able to socialize and participate in these programs during the summer. But the situation might have changed materially by then. There may still be a need to use part of the Grove, but not all of the Grove. It really depends on future events. And so I would simply favor deferring that part of the question until perhaps our May meeting or even the June meeting. The June meeting might be too late, maybe the May meeting.
But does Ross Rec need to know now as they're booking their classes to know how many, how much space can they count on?
Are you asking me? Sorry.
Yeah.
So we have already opened it with we will have to use the Grove regardless, whether the dogs are there in the evening or not, we have to utilize that space to have a shady space for the kids. So it will be used regardless. My request is that it, remains as sanitary as possible for hygiene purposes. So but yes, it will be used either way.
So, I guess I would just stand by my earlier comments. I think we just need to continue the same practice through the end of the Ross Rec programs, including, here's where I differ from Elizabeth Breckus. I don't think that night use or evening and night use by the dogs is sanitary, and I don't see how, I just don't think that works.
Beach.
I continue to believe that this issue should be left to our staff so that as conditions develop during the summer, they should do whatever is reflected by how things are working.
Well, my own view is that, I think Ross Rec needs to have a space to have its programs. And people, this is an unprecedented, unusual, once in 100-year, hopefully, knock on wood, situation. And a lot of people in town are going to be relying on Ross Rec to entertain their kids for a big period of the day. And, my youngest kid, who is now 23, I remember very vividly, he had brand new shoes that I paid way too much money for. He stepped in a huge pile of dog poop in the Grove. So it really does happen. And I think we need to be good citizens and good neighbors, and the dogs and I understand the need to socialize. There is an area across the street where people can go. Yes, it's not as big as the Grove, but it is available. And, you know, people need to be flexible. I do kind of agree with Beach that it would be great to remove this from a council level discussion to the extent we can going forward. But in light of the fact that that's not on our agenda now, we can't really do that. So. Joe, do you think you have enough direction here?
For now, it's clearly keeping it in place through the school year. And then the question is, do we bring the item back in June to say, do you look at the summer, or staff authorized to look at adjustments at that time, or go through August? So it looks like there's about several branches, but you know, until June 10th, the next council meeting then would be in June 10th, which could be one.
So is that, Beach, are you wanting to talk about it again in June to see for the summer for Ross Rec, or are you okay for Ross Rec to use the common, you know, through the summer the way the school is?
I want to get it off our agendas. It isn't practical to have the council continuing to try to make. I think if we had a more flexible system, there is a possibility that we could be more responsive to whatever develops in future months. But as I said at the beginning, I certainly favor the children. I like children, I like dogs, but in this issue, in this context, I gotta favor the children.
Right, I guess I'm thinking I almost feel that we should be able to make a decision now about can Ross Rec use it throughout the summer, because I don't see anything changing in 2 months. There may be changes in terms of the tiers, but there won't be changes in terms of children getting vaccinated, because those vaccines aren't approved yet for children. So, you know, we've got a summer ahead of us with children needing to be in pods. There's just no getting around that. I guess I'd rather not revisit it in 2 months, just because I don't know that there's a benefit, but if others want to revisit it in 2 months, since it's a council decision at this point, and if there isn't a council decision tonight to have Ross Rec use it through the summer, then we would need to revisit it in 2 months or 1 month.
Well, it sounds like there's a council decision to allow Ross Rec to use the Grove unless something changes materially, and then we can revisit it. It sounds like there's three of us that feel that way.
Okay.
People good with that? Okay.
Okay.
Joe, you got the direction you need?
Thank you, council.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Gretchen. Thank you, Dr. McDowell.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, everyone.
Okay, item 13, town manager update and council discussion on town activities in response to COVID.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. Not too much to report. We're now that we're in the orange tier, we'll probably be remaining in the orange tier of the COVID system for at least another month at a minimum. Right now, the case rate in Marin County is like 3.4 cases per 1,000 people. It has to get below 1 per 1,000 before we get to the next tier at the yellow, which is the yellow tier. That could happen within a month, but it would need, you know, significant improvement. Marin, that being said, the state will, looks like on June 15th, change the system. There will still be restrictions in place. It's just they're going to open things up, and obviously we'll need guidance at that time. Relate to vaccinations, Marin has the highest percent of adults that have been vaccinated in the state. We've had 63% with at least 1 dose and 40% with 2, and we have significantly the highest amount of vaccinations among those over 65, which was age 65, which was a key priority for the Marin County Health Department. And obviously that's helping greatly. Like, they are not seeing any new cases at long-term skilled nursing facilities, which is, if you looked at statistically, is like 75% of the deaths within Marin happened at those type of facilities. And now there's no cases coming out of those. So Marin's moving in a good direction, and obviously we'll wait to get state guidance. One thing they haven't changed is like OSHA requirements, how workplace, where the questions are, and we had this conversation today, people are getting vaccinated, can they work together? Well, Cal OSHA hasn't changed the requirement. So where a lot of places are waiting for Cal OSHA to change. So there's one thing about capacity, but you still have this provision. You can't have more than one person, multiple people within one office or one open area without wearing masks, even if they're vaccinated, until Cal OSHA. So there's, in effect, we're waiting for some catch up, hopefully, in those kind of requirements. But anyhow, that is where we're at today. And obviously we've moved people all around town hall and have some people work remotely on certain days so we can keep one person per office. And we will continue that until Cal OSHA allows us to do or differently.
Any COVID related questions for Joe? Thank you, Joe.
Thanks.
Item number 14. 205 Lagunitas Road Amendment of Use Permit and Town Council consideration of adoption of resolution number 2199. Patrick.
Mayor, I am going to recuse myself with respect to this item because I am a member of the Lagunitas Club. I have no financial interest in the club, but and I'm not saying that I think I would always have to recuse myself when the Lagunitas Club was a subject of a matter before the council. But I think for the purposes of this item, and without discussing all the reasons, I think I should recuse myself.
Okay, Beach, thank you. You just need to turn off your video. Don't leave the call, just turn off your video.
Okay.
Okay, we'll get you back soon. All right, Patrick.
Thank you, Mayor McMillan and members of the council. The item before you is the first biannual review of the Lagunitas Club use permit. So the Lagunitas Club is located on Lagunitas Road. The zoning is a single family residential with a 1 acre special zoning district. And the general plan is kind of custom for the Lagunitas Club. It's limited specialized recreation and cultural. So a little history on why we're having this item. In 2017, the council adopted a resolution that placed conditions on the operation of the club. It was accompanied with an environmental and mitigated negative declaration pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act. And essentially what the use permit allowed for was 9 indoor amplified musical events, or amplified events that had music, events that had amplified music, there we go. They were already entitled to have 3 outdoor events with non-amplified music. And it just added some additional conditions to those types of events. They had to be sponsored by a member of the club. Notice had to be provided to property owners within 500 feet. And also as part of that use permit amendment, it required an annual review to take place in 2018 and then again in 2019, with the council then deciding what type of review would be appropriate after those 2 mandatory reviews. In 2018, the council met and amended the use permit further. It reduced the number of events that were allowed from 9 to 6. And then it also set the new term of reviews so that after the 2019 review, it would become a biannual review that would commence in February of 2021. In 2018, the review was held. the first of those annual reviews. The council found that the operation of the club was within the parameters of that use permit. And so the first review was approved. The staff and the members of the and the representatives of the club failed to hold the second review in 2019. That oversight was caught, and then the review was held in February of 2020. At that review, the council again found that the club had been operating within the parameters of the use permit and approved that second annual review. So now we are at the period of review where it's the biannual review, starting with, it was supposed to be February of 2021. Obviously, the history on this project is a little, I had to do a little research to figure out exactly what the path forward is, but in theory, in 2023, February, staff should be on top of it and able to hold the next biannual review, assuming that this one is approved by the council. And just in line with those conditions of approval, the club has been operating consistently with those conditions of approval. There have been no complaints received regarding live indoor amplified music events. There has been a noise complaint in the last year. It was about mechanical equipment being used around the pool. Staff found that was in line with the town standards and with the club's use permit, but they did opt to switch that equipment from gasoline powered to electric equipment as part of their good neighbor policy. Because we are in a pandemic, there has not been any non-amplified music events or amplified music events held at the club since the last review took place. And since they've been operating consistently with their use permit, there have been no events and no complaints. Staff is recommending approval of this 2021 biannual review. And I'm available if there are questions. Also, the club manager, Brittany Anderson, is in the audience to answer questions from the council if necessary. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Any council member questions? Anyone from the public, Linda, wishing to make a statement?
There are no hands raised right now, Mayor.
Okay, let's bring it back. Any discussion, or could we just go with a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Linda, can you do the roll?
Sorry, I was muted. So Councilmember Breckus
Aye.
and Councilmember Kircher,
Aye.
Councilmember, oh, not cool, sorry. Councilmember Robbins
Aye.
and Mayor McMillan.
Aye.
And the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Beach, you can, there you are. Very good. Item number 15, election of mayor. Joe, do you want to do this? Traditionally, we rotate the position of mayor, and Elizabeth Robbins is next in line after having served as mayor pro tem. So I would like to make a motion to nominate Councilmember Robbins to be mayor.
Second.
Okay, let's take the vote.
Do you have to take public comment?
Oh,
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Public
Okay.
comment. Stephen Hauser objects. Just kidding. Any public comment?
no raised hands.
Way.
Oh, that's so
Yay,
sweet.
Elizabeth. Congratulations.
Well, I was clapping for Julie. Oh, aren't those for you?
These are for me, yeah. Too bad the bottle isn't open. So Elizabeth, you get to do the election of the mayor pro tem. I am done.
All right, well, Julie, congratulations on your service and the flowers and the champagne that you can enjoy as soon as this meeting ends. And I think you've done an amazing job of navigating the council through a year of disasters. And on top of that, we've pretty much not been portrayed as a disaster in the newspaper, which is wonderful. So I think you've done an excellent job, and we'll miss you. Well, we won't miss you. You're still here. So Mayor Pro Tem.
If I may, we need to take a roll call vote on your nomination. We have a first and a second.
I didn't think it had gone through. Okay, go ahead.
How do you vote, Councilmember Breckus?
Aye.
Councilmember Kircher?
Aye.
Councilmember Cool?
Aye.
Councilmember Robbins?
Aye.
And Mayor McMillan?
Aye.
Passes unanimously.
So shall I take over at this point? Or do you want to finish? What, Julia, why don't you
No,
finish it?
It's
All right.
all yours.
So election of mayor pro tempore. Again, we usually continue this rotating, which would mean I would nominate Beach Cool.
Second.
All right, let's take the vote.
Let's do public comment first.
Oh, sorry. Any raised hands in public comment? No, there is not. All right, let's take the vote. How do you vote, Councilmember Breckus?
Aye.
Councilmember Kircher?
Aye.
Councilmember Cool?
Aye.
Councilmember Robbins?
Aye.
And Mayor McMillan?
I'm a council member now, but
Okay, sorry, Councilmember McMillan.
That's okay. Thank you.
All right, passes unanimously.
All right, now we're on to item 17. First, council correspondence. Any correspondence that should be discussed?
I have some.
Yes.
Well, I know we all received after the last council meeting, or I think we did, email from Charlie Goodman about the idea that, yes, we could write a letter separate to the flood committee, the county, indicating a preference for one direction or another. I thought that was helpful information. I mean, obviously it's outside the process, but it's also seems wise as a taxpayer to not give some direction. I mean, I'm hoping staff is listening and hearing where we're possibly going, and I don't know whether staff has a view on, hey, that ship has sailed and we shouldn't be doing that, but I just thought I'd raise that. And
if I could just make a comment on that. So we're having the workshop this coming week, the April 15th, and then the goal will be to bring it to the May 13th, May 13th council meeting, and for council to provide direction on a preference of alternatives prior to the county's acting on it during the final EIR. So that has been the plan, to have it come to council either at the May or June, the May meeting, and if you need to talk to the June meeting, but definitely before the county acts on the final EIR.
And I think Beach, you had mentioned something like that at the last meeting. Joe, does the May meeting is that early enough? Is that in enough time before the supervisors act on it? And Julie, were you going to comment?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I responded to Charlie's email with just that sequence. I provided that to him. So he's good with that.
Thank you. Any other council correspondence? Elizabeth Breckus.
Well, it was correspondence in the form of oral communication, but I feel like I keep hearing so many complaints about the post office, and I don't know what can or should be done. My mom was accused yesterday of falsifying her address because she is one of the Winship people who has a 66 Winship, San Anselmo, California. And I mean, it's been like that since we moved to Ross, and everybody in Winship does. And so, but the postmaster said she was committing postal fraud and falsifying her address. And, I don't know what to do about this. I mean, I know we don't have jurisdiction over them, I keep bringing up, I think I'd love to know how many parking spaces they're entitled to in the back, because I really think that needs to be looked at. But I mean, I think we should consider writing a letter to Huffman about the service that we're getting. And I think that we should consider even writing a letter to the postmaster, I don't know what the term is, and saying that we continue to get a lot of complaints about service, and that this issue of the wind chip is one that, anyway, so I'd like to bring that up and suggest that maybe we have a further conversation about that.
Right, because I mean, we can't really discuss it now since it's not on our agenda, but it is something that could be put up on, on an agenda for the council to try to decide how do we address this, because it has come up, and there are some like postal issues that are, some postal regulations that don't match what had been done in the past. And so it could either go on an agenda, or maybe Joe could address it. Julie?
Well, I got a complaint today about the post office too, and I receive many frequently, and I, refer them all to Jared Huffman. I don't think we as a council have any jurisdiction over the post office. So, I mean, maybe it's something RPOA could deal with, but I don't think we should have. I totally agree with you, Elizabeth Breckus. The whole thing is very frustrating, but I think because we don't have any jurisdiction, I'm not sure why we would put it on our agenda.
Well, I mean, just sending a letter to somebody and saying residents are unhappy and the town council is concerned about it. I mean, that seems like that could be potentially impactful. And I don't know why. I mean, it's really unsatisfactory to tell people we have no jurisdiction and call Huffman. I mean, it's true, we don't. And yet, I think sending a letter could be certainly helpful. So, and also maybe inviting the post office to come. Maybe they'd be engaged and say, okay, well, maybe things need to be a little different. I don't know.
Beach, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I want to make sure, I want to know whether your mother made bail.
Well, she literally asked, do I have to be worried about you coming to my house? And now she's afraid to go in there because she's worried the woman's going to go postal on her.
Well, I mean, maybe there's some way to sort of settle this kind of locally, where the postmaster explains the regulations and what has been in the past and what has to be now and why. And if things have to change because, things weren't done legally in the past, maybe they have to change. I don't know. I mean, again, we don't have jurisdiction. Joe or Ben, how do you think we should address this? Because, right, it's not on our agenda, but we should figure out how we're going to address it. What do you guys think?
Well, I was just going to say what you just said. It's not on the agenda, and I think we're going a little too deep on this of whether to, I think the first item is, should we have it on a future agenda to talk about what we as a town can do to try to effectuate change with the post office? The second thing, I think, Joe can speak for himself, but I think he's hearing loud and clear, is you have, oral communication from your mother, talking about what happened, and I'm sure staff can at least, inquire and figure out what's going on if there's been some sort of change. But I don't think we can really spend a whole lot of time right now talking about how to approach the post office and what to do and what the council should do. Unless we have, another council member to agree to put on a future agenda.
The other way is, staff could go and put a memo to you and then decide if you want to bring it to the agenda.
Okay, let's do that. Well, I think that would be that way we can get a little background, a little, clarity, and then see how that plays out. Are you okay with that, Joe, then?
Yeah.
And other council members, you're okay with that? So that's how we'll address this. Okay, any other correspondence? All right, on to future council items. Are there any items that people would like to put on a future council meeting agenda? then we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you all very much. And Julie, thank you and congratulations for a wonderful year.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I'm really sorry we couldn't work together in person. It really pretty much sucks. So I'm looking forward to the future.
And actually, we were going to put in the May meeting, Mayor Robbins, we were going to honor Julie there formally,
Okay.
since this
So
is
you
at the
have a
end of the
month to
meeting.
You have a month to buy me gifts.
Yes.
A bottle of champagne coming every week.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Julie. Congratulations, Elizabeth.
Thank you.